What's up, LinkedIn community, and happy New Year's. It is 2024, and raise your hand. I can't see it, but who's glad that 2023 is behind us? I know I am. Welcome, Billy is as well. And with that, I have Billy, Robo Recruiter Automation Expert Davis with me. Known Billy for a really long time and really excited to talk to you today about all things automation. Billy, welcome to GR Live. How are you doing today, man?
Doing great. Appreciate it, Adam. Every time we chat, it's always a good time. So looking forward to today.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And this is unprompted, unscripted. This is just raw Adam and Billy. Maybe that's a new series we could do, just raw with Adam and Billy. I don't know.
There you go. There you go.
But hey, for those who don't know who Billy is, maybe you've been living under a rock or you're new to the industry. But Billy, I would say is probably one of the foremost experts in automation as it relates to automation within the staffing industry. He was back in the day, Herefish's first full-time employee, which is amazing. So you went through that whole transition of the Herefish evolution acquisition into Bullhorn automation. And now, Billy, tell us, what are you doing for Bullhorn these days?
Yeah, so currently I've been at Bullhorn for 4 years. My current role is on the customer success team, kind of optimizing automation for our clients, which is fun. And then I do kind of some several projects around thought leadership with automation, content creation, to get some best practices, tutorials out there in the hands of obviously the industry to help them upskill on what automation can do for their business.
Yeah, and so I always ask this. How do you get into staffing? Nobody gets into staffing. And I know you're a little bit on the different, like what got you into this industry, man?
Yeah. So every time you ask somebody that question, you get typically a different answer. And that's generally how it goes. So my early kind of post college years, early 20s, I was actually playing professional baseball. And then shortly kind of thereafter, made a jump because of kind of started a family. So they couldn't do the traveling baseball world anymore. So settled down, looked at what are some opportunities that could potentially pay some money, from an entry level perspective.
Right.
And a staffing opportunity popped up, came in as an entry level recruiter. And then there was a lot of opportunity to kind of take things from there.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, so forget about the staffing stuff. Let's talk about your baseball career, man. Who'd you play for?
So I played independent leagues. Probably the highest caliber was AA baseball. So I'm about 6 feet, just a hair over 6 feet tall. So that's short for a pitcher, and I'm right-handed. But so the fastest I've been able to throw in my life is 92 miles an hour. So I was on the cusp of getting there. Good secondary stuff. But yeah, baseball is near and dear to my heart. Still play it now in my mid-30s.
I love it.
But yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
So I've been coaching youth baseball for, I just did the math. It's been 12 years now. I'm so fired up. I took my first 4-month hiatus, and it's funny because I think coaching youth sports is a lot like just helping coach people in business as well. Whole different thing. But one of the things that I've been most excited about is my son got Win Reality. Which is, the Oculus with the bat. And I got to tell you, it's pretty accurate. So we can talk about baseball all day, but
all day.
We're not here for that today. Although I love to see that because I'm in the midst of all preseason stuff. I'm fired up. But want to talk about automation. And I would say it's been a buzzword for the last 4 years. 3 years, I would say, really a buzzword, where it was like you can't get anywhere without hearing automation. And what's really interesting was, I think I was an early adopter of Herefish. I was their second customer. Yes, Tim Glennie, if you're listening, I know you were the first. It's all right. But I was also an early customer of Sense. And what I found interesting over time is that you have two products that were addressing two different issues in the market. One was bottom of the funnel. How do we help use automation to get more bottom of the funnel up? And then they were on the opposite end of saying, how do we help with redeployment? So it was really interesting to see two companies start from very opposite ends, But as customer needs come, you start seeing that you guys have kind of become this product category, which is staffing automation software. So tell me, what have you seen as like the biggest changes since you kind of started day one to where we are now? And secondly, where do you see it going into the future?
Yeah, yeah, great question. And something that we share in common is, I was an early Herefish client myself back in my staffing days, and then
Yeah,
before that, I was an early Sense client as well. So, and then I have the fun, unique kind of experience of I was writing some of my own API programming and stuff to do my own automation before either of those existed because they didn't exist yet. But then thankfully they got created, and I was like, oh, I don't have to learn this coding stuff. This is a lot easier to do. So, I mean, I
lots of
think,
layers, Billy. Lots of layers we're pulling
yeah,
back here in this.
yeah, it's an onion. Yeah, we're peeling back the onion for sure. I think with automation, especially, it's something that's resonated so much in the past 3 or 4 years. And it's something that resonates regardless of where the pendulum is going in the market. In a market boom, everyone is trying to, hire, kind of teach, retain, internal talent. They're trying to do more with more, right? Trying to process more candidates, more clients. So using automation becomes really important in markets where you have to kind of tighten things up. Doing more with less really resonates, and obviously that's a kind of a bread and butter thing for automation. One of the things that really drew me into the automation world was just having experience in other industries before staffing, and then coming into staffing and seeing how kind of outdated and backwards some of the process was, and some of the
Right.
experiences that we're generating. So I think that was a big help for me in just understanding, like, there is a better way that this can be done, and then it's just kind of crafting it, putting that into play. I
Right.
think the interesting thing with automation currently is, even though it's been a buzzword, and then, recently AI has been kind of the buzzword that's taken it over this past year or so. But even though it's been a buzzword for 2 or 3 years, most of the industry is still in kind of the early stages of adopting it, or optimizing or using it well. So we've had early adopters that have taken automation, run with it, and have been doing incredible things. And we've been hearing and seeing the outcomes of that. But one of the consequences of it is it makes a lot of people feel like everybody else is doing it, when really that isn't the case yet, although it's trending in that direction. So, like, your second part of the question is, what do I see in the future for automation? And I see that trajectory continuing to expand, of more and more clients not only having automation available, but then actually fully leveraging and optimizing it.
Here's the example, right? Everyone's like, well, everyone's doing it, and now it's not a differentiator. It's not a differentiator. It shouldn't be a differentiator.
Yep.
It was a differentiator 3 years ago, and the only time it gets to be a differentiator if you're an early adopter. Look, if you're a laggard on anything, it's no longer a differentiator. You're playing catch up. You're
Right.
playing catch up to somebody who's already spent 3 years investment in that. Um, the other thing that I think is you have more experts that are providing more. Let's face it, most staffing firms don't have an automation expert on hand, right? So you have folks like yourself that like got into it. Like, I geeked out on it too. I'm like, my claim to fame was like, I don't want to send automated messages from company. I want to send it from the person, because that's where my relationship is.
Yep.
And so I geeked out on it. But a lot of companies don't have that, right? Either they don't have the resources, or they don't have the personnel. But there's a lot more folks that can help with it today, which I think is kind of standardizing some of the things that happen. And standardization is bad. Look, if I order food online, it's an expectation that I can
Yep.
order food online, and I don't need to talk to anybody.
Yep.
And where I think automation, I'm curious of your take on this. The early rhetoric was automation will make all your recruiters the same. And so you can automate the best things that your best recruiters are doing, so they can all operate at that high level, which I feel is BS and was a great positioning, but never reality. Um, to now, it's like, take the things off the plate of your recruiters that they don't need to be doing. Like,
Yeah.
take the $5, the $10 task off their plate. Let them focus on what they do best, which is their relationships. And that's why I always loved your cyborg thing.
Yeah.
It's the RoboCop without all the mayhem and murders, but it's take the technology, but keep what's human, which is the relationship stuff. But where have you seen, like, how is automation being positioned today from a value add?
Yeah, I think is exactly that. I mean, the way I look at it and recommend is kind of that half human, half machine approach, where you blend the benefits of both together to achieve a higher and better outcome. So, like you mentioned, the things that you want robots to do, like data entry, reduce manual tasks, get rid of double or triple data entry, enable self-service. Like those are things that you can't do at scale manually, which is why they don't get done. But it's also something that you don't need to have your recruiters be doing, because you can free up their time to have the consultative approach, build
Right.
relationships. And that's where the sweet spot is, when you can combine both of those elements together, is where you can really see kind of the outcomes. So I like that approach from automation. And I've seen it both ways, where somebody gets really over eager and wants to automate absolutely everything. And then you lose some of the value and some of the secret sauce of staffing and recruiting when you do that. And then I've
Right.
seen the other way, where they resist automation with every fiber of their being,
Right.
but then they can't operate at scale. So you got to
Right.
blend, you got to find a balance. But in this world of expectations rising from a consumer experience, the old ways of doing things will not work.
Here's where, automation 2.0 is to me is going. Is, the beginning, it was like, get your foundation set, right? Hey, create your consistent processes, do the data cleansing, do all those things that should be happening that just weren't native in a lot of applications, right? So I think that's really important. But automation shouldn't be, in my opinion, internally focused. uh, you should be 80% externally focused on, is this creating a better experience
Mm,
for my clients and candidates? Is it solving problems that are rubs for them? And if it's
yeah.
not, I think people that are focused more internal and aren't thinking about that experience and how to leverage it, that's what we need. Job seekers are approaching everything with a consumer mindset. And staffing is far behind from a tech perspective as an industry, uh, than kind of other industries, like ordering food, ordering an
Yeah.
Uber. Right? They want things that simple, that easy. You want to talk to somebody when you have a problem. I love a Verbo, right? They're like vacation home, but oh shit, if it hits the fan, right? If it hits the fan and you're on vacation, call us,
Yep.
right? So I mean, there is
Yeah.
a
Both.
point where a human being needs to be involved because we need that. We need that.
Well, then you juxtapose that experience that you're getting, and meanwhile, most of that experience today you can do omni-channel, right? You could do online, you could do on your phone, right? You can do it whatever you want to do it from your
Yeah.
perspective. But juxtapose that experience with what still is the majority of the experience when you apply to a job with the
Right.
staffing company, and then you don't hear anything. It's crickets. You don't even get a confirmation message. You don't hear anything. You're just left wondering what is going on with this application.
Right.
It's like that gap of experience is getting larger, because the consumer experience is continuing to get better and better. And even though the recruiting side is getting better, it's not getting better as much. But one key element I wanted to point out in kind of what you just said, I think is really important, is the foundation of being able to provide a better experience is to measure and get feedback to understand what are the friction pain points,
Right.
how do people feel about interacting with your company, about your process, about working for you, or interviewing or screening. If you don't gather that feedback in a meaningful way, you're flying in the dark.
Yep. Yep. Without a doubt. You are. You are. And we both know there's some technologies out there that can help get real-time feedback. So we can dig into that a little bit as well. But talk to me a little bit about. I'm curious. What is the automation like? I know you had a moment where you're building, and you're like, oh, I crushed it. Like that is the best automation. Like, give me an example of something that was like just a moment of like, oh, I did it.
Yeah, this is the one that probably got me a job at Herefish because it impressed Jason and Travis and Kevin because of how complicated but how well it worked. So my old office, we had the walls painted so that there were whiteboards, so you could write on the walls, as ideas and stuff came. So
Yeah.
my office looked like a madman's cave because it just had all of these scribbles of ideas and automations and stuff. But one of the things that I created was I created custom reminders, text message reminders to candidates. Because one of our challenges was getting candidates to show up on the first day of their job in a light industrial niche, right? Like we had so many no call, no show issues. And the challenge was we had jobs that were 8-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, and sometimes longer. And then there were all 3 shifts, right? So during the day, during the afternoon, and then overnight. So trying to do check-in calls or trying to remind people, you couldn't do it manually unless you weren't sleeping. And then you had to have reminders and stuff. But I created an automation that would send a message to a candidate an hour before they were supposed to start, just to check in and make sure everything was still good. And I was able to customize it so that regardless of what shift they were working on, if it was 8 hours or 12 hours, what day of the week they were starting on, I was able to make it so I could make sure it was getting 1 hour before their start date and start time. And it was a lot of complication stuff to make that happen.
That's awesome. And the only way you can do that is by having clean data in your database. So if you're upset about your automations not working and your database looks like a garbage can, you need to fix that first, because it's tough you're just going to automate like a bad process. Don't automate a bad process, which leads me to, what is the worst automation you have ever seen? I'm not going to ask what you've created that's been bad, because there's a lot of trial and error. But what is the worst automation that you have seen somebody build?
Well, I won't throw anybody else under the bus, so I will give my experience. And this is a real bad one because, and this is something I tell people, learn from this mistake from me so you don't have to make it yourself, which is what being an expert is really in a nutshell, is going through a process, making the mistakes, and being able to teach somebody else where they don't have to make the same ones. But
right.
I turned on an automation at about 4:45 on a Friday afternoon with just the assumption of how it would work. And what I ended up creating was an infinite loop that was sending me just my work email, 5 or 10 emails. But the problem was it was looping basically like every minute. And I didn't really check it over the weekend. I came in Monday morning to an inbox of tens of thousands of emails, and it actually brought down our email domain. And I had to work with our email provider for like 3 hours Monday morning so we could actually send out, emails and stuff and get deliverability into a better spot. So that was a nightmare, but I quickly learned my lessons of understanding, like reentry settings, looping, not launching something on a Friday afternoon and not checking in on it. So lots of lessons were learned in that, but that's probably the worst one that I've encountered, myself.
Oh, that is great. That is great. Somebody sent an automated, thought it was good to automate end of assignment stuff, and had created an automation that just sent it to all active placements that their assignment was coming to an end across the entire organization. I'm like, there's certain things, which gets me to what shouldn't be automated, Billy. What are those things that you've learned that you say, no, don't, this isn't an automation? Because it sounds great. Hey, we're going to automate this, we're going to automate that. Like you said, people go crazy. Like, what should people avoid automating?
Well, I think the things that you should avoid automating in the beginning are things where you can be kind of prone to mistakes. Like your example is a good one where you don't want to just go 0 to 100 in that scenario. You want to kind of test, verify before you actually kind of launch it to make sure you're not going to inadvertently, freak a bunch of people out, that kind of stuff. I think where automation, where that kind of line needs to be drawn is things where you're trying to influence or build a relationship, or have that connection point with that human to human standpoint. Automation can help you with reminders, or how can we get there, but you can't fake that. So I've seen some people try to, but then it just comes off as kind of disingenuous, or you can see through it. So I think anytime you're trying to pass off that personal touch in a really specific way with automation, I think you lose some value.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. So I see more people now saying, "Hey, this is an automated message, but it's not. But it doesn't mean I'm any less interested in wanting to talk to you. I'm just trying to maximize my time, right?"
Yeah.
And it's like, call it out, right? Rather than making it feel like, 'cause there's nothing worse, like, hi brackets, Mr. Insert name here that goes out. It's like, come on, guys, let's be real that we know it's there. And do you see that more of like being transparent that, hey, there's automations that are going to be taking place, and is that kind of like a best practice now? Because I think in the beginning people did try to hide that it was actually an automation, like it was devaluing what they were doing.
Right. And I think we have had a lot of really powerful examples from our clients where they actually create like a persona or a person that the automation messages get sent on behalf from, but they call it out. So they're not trying to fake that it's actually, a recruiter you never heard of, but they're just saying like, this is an automated message. This is why we're sending it. But this goes back, I think, to one of your earlier points where it depends on what you're communicating,
Right.
and so if you're communicating like where somebody is in a process, or giving them confirmation that their application was submitted, or hey, we haven't gotten an update yet, but we've called the client and we're chasing it down. We'll make sure we reach out to you tomorrow. Like that kind of stuff, perfect to get automated. A candidate is never going to complain that message is automated, because that message, getting that information, is light years better than hearing nothing at all.
Right.
So those scenarios, right? Like you don't have to try to pretend that it's coming from a person, because the message itself is the value.
Right. What where do you see this going? You've seen a big evolution just in the way it's positioned, the way it's being used. It's gone far beyond people implementing it and getting just birthday messages out 6 months later, right? That was it's like it's grown, it's evolved. Where are you guys taking it? What should we expect to see from a Bullhorn automation perspective? What can you share?
Yeah, so I think first thing I'll mention is kind of the vision of a single source of truth, where your entire tech stack, right, middle, back, and front office, is tightly integrated or the same system. And then because of that, anything that's occurring within anything that's occurring within the recruitment lifecycle, you have automation there to support, to ensure that it's happening consistently, and ensuring that it's getting done the right way, and all of those things are available from a trigger perspective. So I think that's definitely the vision of where things are headed. I think obviously there's a huge interest in AI right now, especially kind of generative AI, and being able to unlock and utilize some of those things for staffing and recruiting. The true power of how effective that AI will be determined by the quality of the data that's in your database. So I see those data quality automations, the data cleanups, the kind of the archive strategies, the enabling self-service for candidates and clients to update their own details. Those things, I think, not only have they been important historically, but will continue to be important,
Right.
because it provides that foundation, not only to have a good experience, be able to message people, but that really provides the foundation for AI and a machine learning or generative AI to actually produce quality content off the back of it.
Right. Can you imagine if Amazon's database was as messed up as many staffing firms?
Yeah, that retargeting would be pretty rough. Yeah,
Retargeting would be pretty rough. Just the automations they have, even from a robotics. I mean, everything has a place. Everything has a value. Everything has a status. Everything has a date. Everything needs it. And it's
Yeah.
like, I think early on, and I would say to anybody listening that's just starting a staffing firm, right? Or is early on, and your database isn't up to 2 million, 3 million records, stop everything and get it clean and get your garbage out and get some automations to help you clean that, because the power of what that can do for you in the long term, it's going to be worth the effort today. And when things are a little bit slower, to me, it's like, now's the time to clean your house, man.
Yeah.
When things are going crazy busy, it's the last thing you want, those automations working so you can seem like you've got a team that's twice the size, 3 times the size of what you really have. So do the work now. Do the
And
work now.
I think that's the secret sauce too. Like that's the actual differentiator in the staffing and recruiting world
Yeah,
is what's your data quality and your database like, but then also more importantly, what are the relationships that you have with those people, right? With those candidates, with those clients. Because if they're just a name with address information and a phone number, and they don't know you from anyone else, you're not any different than any other staffing company that gives them a call. But if you've built a relationship, if you've built a positive reputation and experience with them in the past, and you've been engaging with them, who do you think that they're going to turn to when they are looking for a job, or if they want to know what's happening in the market? That is the true differentiator, kind of secret sauce that separates kind of good from average from below average.
to great. To great. I think you're doing that just to get me fired up and everything. As you see, like, you're speaking my language, right? So,
Yeah,
one of the
human language.
things, you're 100% correct. Your data, the size of your database means nothing. Your callback rate, and I'll say it, and you'll hear me say it a million times this year. The number one data point that nobody is measuring is their callback rate. Okay. A lot of marketing teams care about how many opens and clicks they get. Okay. Because it tells them whether or not they're delivering a message. And if you're
Right.
just hammering a database and you have no trust built, who are you going to call back? I'm not calling anybody back these days. If I get an email and I don't know who you are. So I think that's where a lot of what I learned being a customer of Herefish, we brought that into Great Recruiters, right? To automate that feedback loop. And how do you leverage that data? Because what we were doing is we would find out who had a great experience, and we were building automations early on to go ahead and nurture those candidates. You can only nurture maybe 50 to 100 relationships one-on-one, but as you continue to grow in your career, if you know all those candidates who gave you 5-star reviews, and you don't place them because you only place maybe 3 to 5% of the people you talk to, so many companies are just letting those 3 to 5, those 5-star reviews just go down, 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 down. Talked about a company the other day that they hit their they had 10,000 reviews, 10,000 reviews on our platform. That is 10,000 candidates, 9,753 that said you're awesome. And we're like, you keep talking about wanting to get more new candidates. What are you doing to re-engage 9,753 candidates that said they had a 5-star experience with your company?
Yeah.
And it was like crickets. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's where automation, like, that's where I see from a recruiter perspective, where I wanted automation is help me nurture my personal networks, help me nurture my relationships. I don't need to be making it feel like it's me reaching out personally. But to have that text, just checking in, it's been 90 days, how's it going? Or that email, just checking in, how's it going? Let me know if anything's changed. You're just keeping you're keeping your name in front of them, because candidates don't work with staffing firms.
They work with people.
They work with recruiters they trust. I mean, that's, you might get a one and done, but if you don't take, so anyways, I love that you said that, because I think it's 100% spot on with, the database is only as good as being able to get somebody to call you back.
Well, yeah, and I got a question for you, because this is something that I've thought about quite a bit, because I think one of the unique challenges of staffing and recruiting is most people that you interact with, you don't help in the way that they want you to help them, right? So most candidates that you interact with, you don't place.
Right.
And in some industries, that percentage is really, really high. So
Right.
I'd be curious, kind of, what have you seen, that the great companies are doing to provide a quality experience, or an experience worthy of a strong review, even for that segment that you can't help in the way that they want you to.
Yeah, and I'll speak for myself and what I did and kind of what I continue to advocate today. Um, First of all, if you're only asking people how you did at the end of the year or quarterly in the people you place, well, congrats. I hope you get a lot of positive feedback. You should. But I would say you're doing nothing to help strengthen relationships, and you're missing out on the bigger opportunity. The bigger opportunity is if if you were if I was lucky enough to have you call me back, Billy, because you saw my reviews and you're like, hey, man, I help automation experts like you. And I know we don't know each other, but check out what people say about me. First, I'm trying to build trust and credibility. And the first thing I'm going to say is, Billy, I can't guarantee I can get you a job. But my goal is to add value in your job search any way I can. And so for me, it's add value every day, add value in every interaction, because I don't know where our relationship is going to go. And I think that's kind of a concept that I was taught early on, is build relationships for life. And if you're going through and only placing 1, 2, 3, 5% of the people, you are giving up on 95% of a talent pool that has taken time to engage with you.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. It's the whole conversation we have. You have 9,753 five-star people. What are you doing to maintain those relationships? As a recruiter, I wish I was taught this day one. It took 3 years till I got to a place. But as a recruiter, year one is look at, man, you're happy anybody calls you back, and you better treat them really well, because that is going to be your base foundation of your future success.
Yeah.
Year two, you're starting to tap in. Hey, we talked last year. I wasn't able to help, whatever it is, but you're maintaining that. But after year two, you consider the number of people that you've talked to. You need a way to nurture them. You need a way to nurture them, because by year three, you shouldn't be reliant on a job board at all. You should be dialed into your own personal network. And the only way you can drive that personal network is to know who likes you and who has an experience. And maybe I'm off track. Did I answer your question, Billy? Because I feel like I
No,
went off.
yeah. No, it's great. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but
And very good insight.
I think that's what's not taught,
Mm-hmm.
because business owners are like, I need it now, placements now, placements now. And they don't take the time. What you invest in today is to me, recruiting is a career. And if you
Yep.
don't think you're a career-minded recruiter, then you're going to burn out in 2 years, because you are going to just chase, start over every single day. You're going to be the dude from Dunkin' Donuts. I got to wake up and make the donuts. And he doesn't look happy. I'm just saying, that guy never looked happy in the commercials. But if you want a successful career, realize it is a gift. Anytime a candidate calls you back, it's a gift. And if you can't think about how I can help you today, I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking, how can I help you not get you placed today, but how can I help you in life?
Yeah.
Right? Billy, what's going on? I need to understand you. I want to help you out. If I can't help you, I'm happy to send you over to somebody who can. And if I can't help you, the biggest thing a recruiter can do is say, Billy, I'm not the
Yep.
guy that's going to be able to help you, but I think there's 2 companies over there that might. Are you going to remember that experience?
Yeah.
Right. And then you talk to the other 2 companies and they're just like, all right, what are you looking for? How much you look? And then it's transaction. Then your buddy comes in and says, man, I'm looking for a job. And you're thinking, who do I refer him to? I'm referring him to the guy that added value. Some of my best referral sources were people I never placed.
Yeah.
I just treated them well, and they knew that if they had a question and they needed something, I was a resource. So I would say what I've discovered is the top-rated recruiters on our platform, and the recruiters that are growing and are maxing out their earnings and are crushing it, they all operate the same way. You have to. It's the only way you can have that success. If not, you're just another name trying to chase another applicant.
Yep.
And man, does that get boring?
Yeah, I love that. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, because one of the challenges that personifies that perfectly is the high turnover rate of recruiters, right? And what that does to the experience for
Yeah.
candidates and clients. When I call up a staffing firm, they pass me to an entry level recruiter. I call the staffing firm 3 months later, that recruiter's not there anymore. It's a new entry level recruiter. It's like, so you just get passed and passed and passed. Whereas, it's, having that career long-term mindset, right, is how you can actually build trust and relationships.
Yeah. And so what automation should be built? The automation for that should be built is you should have gotten an email when that entry level recruiter left, and where it automated and said, hey, Steve's no longer here, but Stacy's taken over. I just wanted to
Right.
do a quick introduction when you're ready to make a call. That's a touch point, man. That's so easy to do. And it's a touch point where they're going to see your brand, they're going to see the name, but also now, you call back and it's like Billy's not there, Stacy's not there, Sarah's not there. I'm going, what the hell's going on
What's
inside
going
this
on at
company?
that
Yeah,
company?
I
Yeah.
think this is not living. If they can't retain their internal staff, why am I going to put my career in their hands?
Right.
And
When
unfortunately, I think I'd like to think that the majority doesn't operate that way, but I think the majority operates that way still. I don't think the
Yeah,
majority says it, but I think the majority operates that way.
agree with you there. And another automation that sprang to mind when you were kind of describing that was that scenario where you provide a great experience to a candidate that you don't help, but then, one of their buddies asks them, are looking for work. Who would you refer to me to? What if you had an automation that would just subtly remind people that you accept referrals or that you have a referral program, so that even they don't need that nudge of their friend coming to them? You could have a message that says, hey, do you know anybody looking for work? And say, oh, wait a minute, I know my buddy Adam, he just told me he's looking for work. That's right, yeah, this was great. Yeah, here's Adam, like, you can help him.
So this is great. We're hitting time. I mean, I could keep going, man. I think maybe we can go version 2 uh, in a little bit, and we can dig into this, because I really think this is the future of automation.
Yeah.
If your automation isn't creating a better experience and enhancing your relationships, you're missing out. You got to get the other stuff done. You got to get the tough work done. Automate your processes, standardize that stuff, make sure all that operational stuff is taken care of. But if you want to really leverage automation, in my mind, it's helping to use it to better nurture those relationships. Because let's face it, every staffing firm out there, your top 20% are making more money from your company than the other 80%.
Yep.
And so, what do you want to do? For me, I want to take that next 20% and push them to the top, right? Which decreases dependency. Why do we hire so many recruiters? Because we have inefficiencies. Start teaching them the right way. Start teaching them day one to build those relationships and have those automations, so you can make that investment. It's expensive to hire, but if you start investing 1-2 years into a recruiter's growth, by year 3, they should just be taking off like a rocket ship.
Love it.
Final thoughts, Billy. Final thoughts. We're at minute 39 here. What would you say for somebody that is like, I haven't done it yet? Because my gosh, there's still people out there. I don't know who you are. I don't want to call anybody out, but you're talking to the folks that have not yet embraced it. What advice do you have for them?
First piece of advice would be small chunks at a time, right? So build your foundation kind of brick by brick. Don't think about doing everything all at once. Focus on 2, 3, 4 things, get those in a good spot, then move on to the next. And then you do that, you keep stacking that together. All of a sudden you're building some great momentum. And then the second piece of advice would be basically know yourself, right? So know your systems, know your process. If you don't have those things clearly mapped out, or understanding what's the ideal path that you're taking candidates and clients through, if you don't have that clearly, done from a process and data and a system perspective, take the time to do it, because you need that in place if you're going to unlock the optimal kind of effectiveness of automation.
Outstanding, outstanding. Big advocate of what the work you're doing out there, because the stuff that you're doing isn't it's to help everybody, right?
Yeah,
Regardless of what platform they're on and everything, which I think is awesome. So keep up that great work. Um,
appreciate it.
if they want to get a hold of you, how do they find Billy Davis?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I do a staffing automation post every weekday. I also have a staffing automation blog that you can find on my LinkedIn if you want to kind of get in some deeper dives, tutorials, that kind of stuff. So those are the best spots. And then I have a couple of things coming in this new year as far as some additional like YouTube videos and stuff that's coming. So a few different ways to get your automation content fix.
I love it. I love it, man. And hey, if you want to learn how to automate your experience management, real time feedback, check out Great Recruiters if you haven't checked us out. But definitely, we are a slice of automation, but a really important one for a lot of different reasons. But Billy, it's been a real pleasure to have you on, man. I think we could probably go another 45 minutes, but
Yeah,
we'll leave it here, and we'll leave it for volume 2.
appreciate it, Adam. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Everyone have a great 2024. Appreciate you tuning in. Take care.
Bye, everyone.